Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So when I was putting together my ultimate 2024 releases list and my fantasy romance list, I noticed just how many incredible books are coming out in February, on the 13th in particular. So that's going to hurt your wallet, or it's going to take over all of your library holds, because that day we have some incredible books coming out. And as I started doing, I'm going to include pre-order campaigns when I can find them, and I will leave all the links and everything you need down below. I think only one this month also takes library requests, but it's a really good pre-order campaign, so I will highlight that when we get to it. And we'll just dive right in because there's a lot to talk about. Starting strong on February 6th, we have Relit. This is an anthology collection and it is edited by Sandra Proudman. This is a collection of 16 short stories and they're all written by Latinx authors, and they are all within the sci-fi fantasy genre. And they take classic stories like Pride and Prejudice, The Great Gatsby, and put this fantasy twist on them, and they allow readers to feel seen, to be heroes of these stories that we're all familiar with and that like change the world. So we have Pride and Prejudice in space, Frankenstein in the depths of the ocean, Great Gatsby on an island off the coast of Costa Rica, so a lot of range here. And you know that I heard Pride and Prejudice in space and I wanted to read that. There are some authors who I recognize, Zoraida Cordova at the top of my list because I love her, so that is a really interesting collection to check out. There is a pre-order campaign through a specific bookstore. I'm not sure if that ships internationally or not. I think it really just depends on what the shipping price would be if they did so. But you do get a bookmark and a sticker, so definitely one to check out. And then of course we have a new book from Tia Williams. This is a love song for Ricky Wilde. And it takes place in February, so it's coming out in February, which I adore, and obviously this is a romance. It also takes place during a leap year, so I feel like Tia Williams was waiting to publish this book at this particular time, and I love that. So it obviously follows Ricky Wilde, and she is part of a powerful dynasty in Atlanta. She's always been the black sheep in her family. She's more artistic, and that is not something that is really revered within her family. And she gets the opportunity to move into a basement in a brownstone in Harlem, and she jumps on that chance because she's always wanted to open up a flower shop, and she does that in this apartment in Harlem. She learns that there's a lot of history about this Harlem apartment. We're talking the 1920s Harlem Renaissance, and she ends up meeting a really mysterious and handsome stranger who changes her life. And I think I have read from reviews that this is also historical fiction, so I assume we are getting chapters or flashbacks to that 1920s era, which is something that I really love. I do like two timelines, and I think that Tia Williams can really pull that off. That is something that she did in 7 Days in June as well. Not to a great extent, but we did get some flashbacks that I thought really gave the character depth. So I have seen good reviews of this one. A lot of people have arcs and I've been jealous, but I cannot wait. It's almost here. Next is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. And this is just one that intrigues me. So within this really opulent mansion, a high imperial is killed. His body is found with a tree spontaneously growing through his body. So that alone is different and weird, but in the kind of way that calls to me. So obviously they need somebody to come investigate this death, and they call Anna, our main character, who is apparently a brilliant investigator but is equally eccentric, and I think I'm gonna love her. She already sounds like a character I'm gonna adore. And she arrives with her new assistant, Den, who is something called an engraver, which means that he has been created to have a perfect memory, which is perfect for a crime investigation obviously, but very good in Anna's case because she's a bit more flighty, it seems like, and she needs some eyes and ears on the case. And at first Den is not too sure about Anna and her skills, but quickly realizes just how brilliant she is. This becomes a bit troubling for Den because he has some secrets of his own that he doesn't want Anna to discover, and apparently this is like a Sherlock Holmes, Watson kind of dynamic, which I can get behind. So it seems to be like a murder mystery in this fantasy world, which is a setup that I seem to appreciate, and I've been hearing good things about this one. Then we have another one I'm really excited for. This is Tales of the Celestial Kingdom by Sue Lynn Tan. This is 2.5, so it's a novella that comes after the last book in the duology, the Celestial Kingdom duology. Obviously the first one being Daughter of the Moon Goddess, the second one being Heart of the Sun Warrior. So this is a collection of short stories. I think 2 have been published already. We're getting an epilogue, which I know people can be iffy on epilogues, but if you read at the end of book 2, you might want an epilogue. I've been curious about what happens next, so that's good. And then we get stories that are from the past, present, and future of the entire world that Sulin Tan built, which is my favorite thing about that series. I know not everybody loves that series, but what sticks out to me about it is the world that she created, and I always say that she could have done more, and I'm glad we're getting a little taste of more. And I think the stories are told from our beloved characters from the books, so I think that is interesting as well. And then Kelly Chung obviously is the illustrator of the cover. She's one of my favorite illustrators, and I'm sure you recognize her work. But I read that there are illustrations throughout. So you just know that the story itself is going to be beautiful, but as a physical object, it's going to be beautiful as well. I can't wait to see it in person. And there actually is an international pre-order campaign. I think it's from a certain bookstore, so it'll depend on the shipping cost for that one. But you're getting page overlays, and I have fallen in love with page overlays recently. I have a few now, so they're just almost like transparent artwork that you put inside of your book on a certain page, and they just look beautiful. And I love that authors are starting to offer these as pre-order campaigns, so you need to check those out. 2024 is gearing up to be the year of Catherine Arden for me. I just marathoned the Winter Night trilogy. Now she has this new book coming out. I would love to finish her middle grade series at some point, but we are getting a adult book from her, and this is called The Warm Hands of Ghosts. This is centered around what appears to be World War I, but apparently it's not quite that. It's at the same time, we're talking about Flanders, which, if you are familiar with Canadian history, is a big part of World War I, so that is different. I just don't know. We'll see how I feel about it, because she's doing this war story with a bit of magical realism, and it's Catherine Arden, so I'm open to trying it. And I do like stories that follow brothers and sisters, so we're getting these 2 perspectives. So the first timeline is January 1918. We're following Laura, who was injured and medically discharged from the medical corps, and she goes back home to Halifax, and she has to leave her brother, who's a soldier, behind. She comes home to word that her brother has been killed, and she's given his personal effects, but something feels off about it. She doesn't think that that is really what has happened to him. So she takes up a volunteer position at a hospital back in Belgium and starts to hear whispers about haunted trenches and things like that. And she needs to unlock the truth of what really happened to her brother. And then we're going back a little bit to November 17th. We're following Freddie, who is her brother, and he wakes up after an explosion, and he's somehow caught under something with a German enemy soldier, and they manage to crawl their way to freedom, and now they don't want to continue on with the war. They take refuge with this mysterious man who can somehow remove the hauntings and the horrors of the trenches. So that is where the magical realism element comes in. Again, I'm a bit wary of the war stuff, but it's Catherine Arden. I haven't really looked into reviews yet. I should do that, but it does sound intriguing, and I know we've been waiting for something new from her in the adult space for a while. And there is a pre-order campaign. It is a double-sided bookmark with the poppies. It is a really beautiful bookmark, and you can get it from Phoenix Books, and I think that that might be US only. Again, it all comes down to whether or not they ship internationally. One I just heard about recently is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This is a debut, and I'm one of those people who is a sucker for books about books. I know it can be a bit fan servicey, but I continue to love them. I will always eat them up. So this one really looks interesting to me. Apparently there's romance in this as well. It says it's full of magic, adventure, and romance. So it follows Cassie, who lives an ordinary life. She's working at a bookstore serving customers coffee and things like that, when one of her favorite customers, who is an older man, dies right in front of her, and she's devastated. She always loved listening to the stories he told, and all that she has left to remember him by was the last book that he was reading, and that happens to be this, The Book of Doors. And in The Book of Doors, it tells you that any door is every door as long as you know how to use it. So that is interesting. I'm getting a bit of like the Starless Sea vibes from this. And then this mysterious stranger, he's described as gaunt and Scottish, shows up, and his name is Drummond Fox, and he is aware that she has this book. He's like the keeper of this collection of books that are similar, but the one that she has is one of the most rare and most powerful. And some other people who know about this catch wind that she has it, and they're hunting her and trying to kill her, so she has to work with Drummond to keep herself and the book safe. And I think she's the only one that knows how to use the doors, and he's the only one that knows where the library is, where the rest of the books are or something. So they have to work together, and I'm assuming they have a romance. So this is the kind of thing that just appeals to me. I don't know what to tell you. Then we're getting our first Tea Kingfisher of the year. That is What Feasts at Night. This is the follow-up to What Moves the Dead. And we're following Alex again, who's a character I really adore. I didn't think we were gonna get a sequel, but I'm open to it. So if you read the first book, you won't be surprised that after the events of book 1, Alex just wants time to rest and relax, but that they are not given that chance because they made a promise to Angus and Miss Potter that they would go back to their family hunting lodge. But when they arrive, they realize that the caretaker is dead, the lodge is in disarray, and there's like an eerie quiet in the gardens that they can't quite explain. And then the villagers of this town have started these rumors, or there's whispers that this breath-stealing monster from folklore has taken up residence within the lodge, and Alex isn't quite believing it, but there are more and more signs pointing to the fact that maybe this is true. So we're getting another haunted house story out of this one with a character I already appreciate, so I'm really looking forward to it. I just like what Tea Kingfisher does with horror, obviously. And Education and Malice by Essie Gibson is next. This is set in the same world as A Diary of Blood, but while that one is a Dracula retelling, this one is a Carmilla retelling, which I think is genius. A lot of people got EARCs of this one, have been telling me how amazing it is. I need to get to it. And it is following these two girls. It's set in a really isolated college where, let me see it, the way they phrase this is what I liked. It says, secrets are currency, ambition is lifeblood, and strange ceremonies welcome students into the fold. So it's following Laura, who is thrust into this world. On her first day, she makes an academic rival with the beautiful Carmilla, and they also have this poetry professor who seems to have this dark obsession with Carmilla. So through this academic rivalry, as often happens, it blossoms into something more, and they get caught up in this dark conspiracy and this dark world, and they have to make some difficult choices. So I already know I'm gonna like it because Essie Gibson has some beautiful writing. Obviously, it being a Carmilla retelling, we're gonna have vampires. I kind of like dark obsession stories, and it's giving gothic feels. Obviously, that just sounds amazing. Essie Gibson has a couple books coming out this year, quickly becoming a favorite author of mine. How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly is actually the EARC that I'm currently reading and adoring, but Anita Kelly is an auto-buy romance author for me. This book is set in the same world as their last two romances, so Love and Other Disasters and Something Wild and Wonderful, which was one of my favorite books of last year. I love that book so much. So we're getting cameos from characters in those first two books, and I love seeing them. This is following Julie, who is a high school basketball coach, and she gets this new player named Vanessa who joins a team and seems standoffish, but those are Julie's favorite type of player. She loves to like crack a hard shell. And Julie learns that Vanessa's new foster parent is Al, who was a really big college basketball star that Julie admired, had like posters up of her and stuff. And she spent 1 or 2 years, I think just 1 year, in the WNBA before she was injured. And Vanessa is her niece, and she's now has custody of her, and she wants to have a relationship but doesn't know how. So she takes up the position of assistant coach of the basketball team to become closer to Vanessa, but obviously she really becomes closer to Julie in the process. So I'm gonna love it. I love the way that Anita Kelly writes characters and chemistry, and I'm already enjoying it quite a bit. So Anita Kelly just announced on their Instagram that there is a pre-order campaign, and I couldn't skip it. I had to share it with you because, of course, it's one of my most anticipated releases, and the pre-order campaign is just really cute. So there are 2 participating bookstores, Vintage Books and Annie Bloom's. I'm not sure if they deliver internationally or not, but you will get a sticker and then a bookmark that features the 2 animals that are in the book, and they are so adorable. It's a little dog and a little cat, and I love them so much. So I'm gonna leave all the information you need for that down below. Can you believe we're still on February 13th? There are so many. This one is The Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slater. This is set, it's for fans of Uprooted and For the Wolf. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of Uprooted, but I did like the atmosphere, so if that's what we're going for, I am here for it. It's an addictive tale of witches, ancient mysteries, and sins that refuse to be buried. So obviously I hear witches and I'm sold, but this is set in Silverton, and this is a remote mountain city that is far away from the capital, and this is being run by witches who would normally be burnt. But in this case, they are the guardians of the threshold between the civilized world and the Darklands. So they're the only way to keep vampires and other vicious creatures from coming up to the civilized world. So obviously they are kept around. But then a new force comes to Silverton, and secrets and mysteries and dark entities refuse to be buried. And we're following a character in particular. She is the first non-witch to be born in the Briar family in 300 years, but somehow she finds herself in the center of all this. So that's an interesting setup. I could get into that. And as I said, I'm always here for anything witchy, and it's a great cover, and I've heard good things about this author. Not only is the cover of Projections by Essie Porter incredible, I'm also really intrigued by the synopsis. It says, love may last a lifetime, but in this dark historical fantasy, the bitterness of rejection endures for centuries. So we're following a young woman, she's not given a name in the synopsis, who is seeking revenge against an obsessed sorcerer who ends up murdering her because she rejected him and he didn't want anyone else to have her. And now he's using these projections of himself to lure and seduce women who will give him the love that she denied, or they suffer mortal consequences. So this just sounds dark and sinister, and this whole projection thing really gets to me. It says that it explores misogyny and the cold corrupting power of unrequited love through an enchanted lens of violence and revenge. So I'm sure there are quite a few trigger warnings in this, but I have a feeling that I'm gonna like the themes that it's exploring. Then we have Sex, Lies, and Sensibility by Nikki Payne, and if that title didn't give it away, obviously this is a Sense and Sensibility retelling, and I'm here for anything Jane Austen related, but apparently this is spicy, and I can get behind that. I love that. Two sisters roll up their sleeves to run a dilapidated beach town inn, but must learn to work with the locals in this deliciously spicy Sense and Sensibility inspired rom-com by Nikki Payne. I like some family drama, I realized in the last couple of years in my romances, and in this case we are following these two sisters who find out that they are actually their father's secret second family during the reading of his will. So this is obviously devastating to them. So they're just left with this abandoned beach house. It is in a predominantly white area. Obviously it's falling apart, but they have no choice but to move in there, and they want to run it as an inn. And it seems like the main sister that we're following is Nora, and the part of the synopsis that caught my attention says, but at least no one will recognize her O-face in the backwoods. So what's that about? I'm curious. But when they arrive, they quickly run into this guy named Bear, who's a fake park ranger giving tours of the property. He has seen people come here before. He doesn't think that the sisters are gonna last more than a week, but of course they do. And Nora and Bear, I think, have a romance and realize that they could actually help one another. Sounds like a good time to me. And I think Nikki Payne has a Pride and Prejudice retelling as well called Pride and Protest that I'm curious to check out. Can I just say that I love, now that I've started doing this pre-order thing, that so many of you reach out to me whenever you find a pre-order campaign. I literally had just had 2 people message me as I'm filming this video, and I just love that you share that all with me. It's so helpful, so thanks for doing that. So the last book on my list for February 13th is Dead Things Are Closer Than They Appear by Robin Walsley. This is apparently for fans of the Raven Boys and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and if you tell me anything is like Buffy, I'm curious. I'm gonna want to check it out, but that's a high standard to live up to. But in this case, we're following a character named Sid. She's a teenager. She's living a typical teenage life where she's going through a lot of humiliation. She's just had a romantic rejection that I think was in front of everybody and terrible, but she also lives in this town that is a tourist trap, and it is built over the fault lines that keep magic from coming into the real world, and a guardian of these fault lines is killed and ancient magic is starting to emerge. So the man behind it all now has a gang of vigilantes, and they are violent. So Sid becomes part of the guards, and she learns that her brother, who is missing, is part of this vigilante group. So she wants to find her brother and seal the fault lines for good. So it's her and this like ragtag would-be heroes crew that she gets together trying to save the world, and they're just normal teenagers. So I can see where some of that Buffy stuff and Raven Boys is coming from. February 20th finally, and the first one we have is Atist of Te, and this is by Hafsa Faisal, and it says here that it is a new fantasy duology. I love a good duology about an orphan girl and her crew who get tangled in a heist with vampires. So it's a heist with vampires. Do you really need to know more? But I will tell you more. So she actually runs a prestigious tea room that at night becomes like an illegal blood house for vampires. and her tea room is threatened one day, and she makes a deal with, I'm assuming, a vampire, where she has to pull off this heist, and to do so she gets together this ragtag crew, and they have to infiltrate the glamorous, glimmering vampire society. And she quickly realizes that there's a lot more going on. There's some kind of conspiracy. Maybe not everybody on her crew is on her side, and some truths come to light. Amazing. I'm here for it. And there's a great pre-order campaign. There's actually 2. So if you order from anywhere, so your Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever, you will be able to get this character art print, and I'm here for the cat on the shoulder. I love it. And a bonus epilogue that I think will be emailed to you. But there's also a indie bookstore exclusive. So you get this print with all of the characters if you order from participating indie bookstores. It's quite a long list, so I will leave a link to the Instagram with all the bookstores down below if you want to check those out. I think that the first one is US and Canada only, but the second one with the art print, and you also get that one character art and the bonus epilogue in that one as well, is international, because some of the bookstores ship internationally. So definitely worth checking out if this is one that was already on your radar. I've said this in a past video, but there's something about the cover of My Throat, An Open Grave by Tori Bavellino that really gets to me. It's really creepy, and it says that this is Labyrinth meets folk horror in a darkly romantic tale of a girl who wishes her baby brother away to the Lord of the Wood. So this book is following Leah, and she lives in this town where you have to be holy and right and good and just be perfect, or the Lord of the Wood will take you, and a lot of girls have disappeared this way. So something that she does is she's often taking care of her younger brother Owen, and in a moment of frustration, he won't stop crying. She wishes him away, and the Lord grants her wish. So she goes to his crib, and all that's left there is a bundle of sticks tied with a ribbon, and she has to cross the river into the forest of the Lord of the Woods to get her brother back. And she ends up making a deal with him that he will give her brother back if she writes some song, and she has a month to do it. And in the process of this, she learns some secrets of her town, and maybe everything that she thought she knew isn't what it seems. So that could be really good. I've been told by a couple people that they really liked it when they read the arcs. So definitely one that's on my radar. I mentioned that Tori Bavellino was announcing a pre-order campaign sometime next week, and she announced it as I was editing this video, so I stopped to record this voiceover because this is a pretty good pre-order campaign we have here. First of all, it's international. What's even better about it is that your pre-orders count, so you submit your receipt, but it's another one that accepts library requests, which you know is something I really appreciate, so get those in. You get 2 character art cards and a signed book plate with personalization options. So amazing. I'll leave the links down below. This looks really good, and I just appreciate any author or publisher that includes library requests. Then we have Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I know this is called something else in the UK. I think it's called The Crimson Moth, but the tagline for this says her deadliest enemy or her greatest love. And this is kind of giving Serpent and Dove vibes. It's a steamy game of cat and mouse between a witch and a witch hunter, played out against a backdrop of opulence, secrets, and blood history. So the witch in this case is named Ruin, and the events of the story take place after a revolution has happened where the witches were run out of the town and they are losing their magic, and now there are witch hunters who are tracking them and killing them. So during the day, she's just an ordinary girl, or so she's pretending to be, and at night she becomes this Crimson Moth character who is seeking revenge for witches and saving them. But then one night a rescue goes wrong, and she decides that it's probably a good idea to try and seduce this notorious witch hunter named Gideon to try and get some intel and to like keep people off the scent. And he also wants to pretend to seduce her because he realizes that the Crimson Moth has been using Rune's merchant ships to rescue witches and wants to know what is going on here. So obviously it's a Serpent and Dove thing where they fall in love, but they should be each other's enemies, and I kind of love that setup, so we'll see how I feel. And again, there is an international pre-order campaign. You get this lovely character art print if you order from this particular bookstore. So again, I'll leave all the links down below that you need for that. I did not read enough foodie romances last year considering how much I love them, and this one sounds really, really good. It's called Till There Was You. This is by Lindsay Hammeroff, and it's following Lexi, who is a culinary student who has dreams of working at a Michelin star restaurant. It's something that her and her mother always dreamt for her, but her mother has passed and she really wants to make their dreams come true, and she doesn't want any distractions. She doesn't want to date, but she has one night with this man and then just moves on. And the man that she had this one night stand with is named Jake, and he kind of becomes an overnight celebrity. He is a singer and a songwriter, and he just happens to write a song about his night with Lexi. And I think it's many years later, or a few years later, and she's now working at this restaurant. She's having a bit of a romance with a coworker. When Jake shows up on her doorstep, he's crying, he's devastated, he needs a friend. They try to be friends, but obviously they become something more. She's worried about being in the limelight as he becomes more and more famous and the tabloids and everything, so they try and make that relationship work. And I just love the cover of this. They're standing on that stack of pancakes. And it says that it's set in the chaos of fame and the high stakes world of New York City restaurants. This novel sprinkles in a second chance at love and a dollop of celebrity drama to create a romantic romp that will make even the most jaded reader smile. Bad Ones by Melissa Albert is next. Melissa Albert is an author whose books I've always been curious about, but I've never picked anything up. But this one sounds like it's my cup of tea. It says, I love a good creepy rhyme. So it says, goddess, goddess, count to 5 in the morning, who's alive? So in the course of one winter night, 4 women vanished without a trace within this small town, and we're following Nora, and her estranged best friend Becca is one of the people who disappeared, and she has left Nora these series of clues to try and find her. It says these clues lead Nora to a piece of local folklore, a legendary goddess of forgotten origins who played a role in Nora and Becca's own childhood games. An arresting crossover horror fantasy threaded with dark magic, The Bad Ones is a poison pen love letter to semi-toxic best friendships, the occult power of childhood play and artistic creation, and the razor-thin line between make-believe and belief. Sounds eerie. And the pre-order campaign for this one is a little bit different. It's actually a Barnes & Noble giveaway, so I'm assuming that's US only, since I know I can't order from Barnes & Noble in Canada, but it's like a sweepstakes, so you're not guaranteed to get anything, but you're going to be entered in to this draw, and you could win a backpack, a film camera and the film, signed copies of The Bad Ones and the Hazelwood books, and a $50 Barnes & Noble gift card, so that's kind of fun. Remedial Magic by Melissa Marr is one that I'm really looking forward to. This is a fantasy romance about an unassuming librarian who has fallen in love with a powerful witch, has discovered that she's a witch, and must attend magical community college to learn how to save her new world from complete destruction. So we're just following a woman who is a librarian. She just loves to make scones and to solve little mysteries, but one day a mysterious stranger who she is attracted to shows up at the library. They have this instant pull to one another, and she learns that she is part of this prophecy where she is actually a witch, and she has to save this magical world and gets thrown into it. So sounds like it might be a little bit quirky and the kind of witchy romance that appeals to me. Then we have something that couldn't be further from a witchy rom-com while still having witches, and this is called Island Witch by Amanda Giatisa. And this is actually like a witchy horror, which I haven't read a lot of witchy horrors, but I could be down for them. And this is based on Sri Lankan folklore. This is set in late 19th century Sri Lanka, where the daughter of a traditional demon priest, relentlessly bullied by peers and accused of witchcraft herself, tries to solve the mysterious attacks that have been terrorizing her coastal village. So as you can tell by that brief synopsis, we're following Amara, whose father is a demon priest, and he was always revered, but now the people of her community are being inspired by British colonialism, and they are moving away from this religion, but they do come to her father when they need help with supernatural things, but she is relentlessly bullied. And then some kind of dark force is terrorizing the people in her village, and she needs to figure out what is happening. It says that it's deliciously creepy and darkly feminist tale about the horrors of moral panic, the violent space between girlhood and adulthood, and what happens when female rage is finally unleashed. The last one that comes out on February 20th on my list is one that seems to be getting mixed reviews, but I'm still kind of curious about it. and this is called To Cage a God by Elizabeth May. So this actually follows two sisters, but it feels like the main character of the story might be Galena, and when they were children, their mother actually grafted gods into their bones using some kind of ancient magic. So they are obviously grow up to be these lethal weapons. They are raised with the knowledge that they are going to be the ones to overthrow the empire no matter what the cost. So their mother dies, their country is on the brink of war, so the two of them helm this rebellion where they have to overthrow the royal family. The one sister, Sarah, ends up with her strange lover who has turned into a violent rebel leader, while Galena infiltrates the palace, and she actually ends up into what seems to be a sapphic relationship with an isolated princess, and now she is torn between duty and desire. So despite the mixed reviews on this one, it does still intrigue me. Moving on to February 27th, we have The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. This is a second chance romance, marriage of convenience. We're following these high school sweethearts who went on really different paths in life. She is a celebrity stylist and she has a really public breakup. So she goes to Vegas to drink away her woes, and her ex-boyfriend, who is a high school basketball coach, happens to be there. They have this one night together, they wake up, they realize they're married, and for whatever reason, this pretend marriage would work best for both of them. So they just continue on with it and obviously fall in love. I've heard good things about Christina Forrest. I'm a little bit iffy on like getting married in Vegas type media, but I'm open to trying this one. There's a pre-order campaign for this one. It's US only if you order from Inkwood Books, and you will get this bookmark and the character art, and I think it's so cute, and you also get a signed and personalized copy as well. Then we have one that I already read. I actually finished it this morning and absolutely adored it. Cannot recommend it enough. You're gonna hear me talk about it a lot. This is Tender Beast by Lies Sensibility. This is a YA horror, as you could probably tell by this cover, and the level of intrigue for this book is high. It's on the longer side, and there are some slow pacing moments in the middle, but it is worth it. I can see why it won't be for everybody, but it was so for me. And if you're into YA horror, if you're into cult stuff, if you're okay with unlikable characters, family drama, and some wild twists and turns, I would recommend this. So we're following the Bear family. Our main character's name is Sunny. Her mother dies in the prologue, and we open up the first chapter with her and her siblings and her dad and a lawyer reading over the will, and she gets this post-it from her mom that says, "Take care of Dom." Now Dom is her younger brother. He is being charged with the murder of his girlfriend, and she ends up going to school with him. They go to this academy that is owned by the family, and this is Canadian. It's set in Toronto, and it's like a private school, but for children who normally couldn't afford private education. So while they are a wealthy family, it would look weird if they didn't attend this school, so they do. And then she ends up in this situation where she finds a dead body, and her brother happens to be there covered in blood, and she needs to go prove his innocence. If you like YA horror, you really can't go wrong with this one. And it actually is the book that has the library request pre-order campaign, which is exciting. So if you pre-order this book from any of your bookstores, you can enter this pre-order campaign as well. But if you request it from your library and just show proof of that, you can get all this stuff as well. So it's amazing, and you get a ton of stuff. So it's US and Canada only, by the way. But you get this double-sided bookmark that has each of the characters on it. You get an iron-on patch, a waterproof sticker, a signed book plate, and then you also get a postcard from her other horror book, Delicious Monsters, and a signed book plate for that. Then you're also entered into a giveaway to get a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, a pennant, and like a book sleeve. So that's an incredible pre-order campaign, especially since you can just use your library requests to enter into that. So Lies Sensibility, I'm a big fan. Love this book. Need to go back and read Delicious Monsters. And then one that I have an arc of, and it's actually going to be the book that I start next now that I finished Tender Beasts, is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. And they don't tell you too much about this one on the back, but it says, "What dark secrets lie hidden in the spirit wood? A YA fantasy perfect for fans of Enchantment of Ravens and House of Salt and Sorrows," which I was a fan of. So it's following Liska, who lives in a village where it's common knowledge that magic is monstrous, and anybody who performs magic is clearly a monster. And something happens where it goes awry with her own magic, and it has deadly consequences. And she ends up being captured by a demon of the spirit wood. and he makes her a bargain, and she thinks, okay, a bargain is better than death, so she goes with it. So she will be granted one wish if she gives him 1 year of servitude. She is swept up to his mansion, and she quickly realizes that she is not the only person that has been given a bargain, and the other people that he has bargained with have mysteriously disappeared. So she realizes that she needs to do whatever she can to survive. If that means uncovering his deep dark secrets, that is what she will do. And through the process, she learns a lot more about her village and things that have been buried there as well. This one is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen, and it says that a shield maiden blessed by gods battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king, while also fighting her growing desire for his fiery son. This is a North-inspired fantasy romance. So this follows Freya, who is in an unwanted marriage, and she just spends her days dreaming of putting an axe into her husband's back and killing him. And something happens where he betrays her, and she ends up in this fight to the death. And through that, she has to reveal her deepest secret, that she has been blessed with a drop of goddess blood, and she is a shield maiden, so she can repel any attack. And the person that she was fighting this with is Bjorn, and he thinks that he is supposed to be king, so he takes her and starts training her up, and she ends up in a relationship with his son. So there could be a lot of layers to this. I have not read anything by Danielle L. Jensen. I do own the British Kingdom now, and I know that people adore her. The first edition of this book has blue sprayed edges. I'm not sure if that is US only and Canada only. I will check that out for you. And you can also submit your book for a signed book plate in US or Canada. And then the last one that I've already read and absolutely adored, you'll hear me talking about a lot, is Lore of the Wilds by Annalie Sprana. This is following Lore. It's a fantasy romance. She is a human in a village that is kind of a prison because the forests around the village are enchanted with a spell that make it terrifying for humans to enter the forest, so they never leave. And surrounding them are fae. And through a series of events, Lore is kidnapped and taken to this castle of the fae, and she is told that she has to go into this enchanted library where fae are not welcome but humans can enter, and sort through the tomes, find magical books, and all these things. And she starts to have a romance with her guard, who is a fae, and it made me realize that I appreciate antlers more than I appreciate wings. I don't know what that says about me. But then this book really does take a turn in the second half, and it becomes a bit more of an adventure story, and we meet some more characters, and it becomes a bit of a love triangle. But I ate it up. I need somebody to read this book so we can talk about the ending. There's so much to talk about, and it's the first book in a series. It definitely ends on a cliffhanger. So there we go. Those are all the books coming out in February. Like always, I am losing my voice, so I gotta wrap this up. Let me know which ones you're excited about, which ones I missed. I will talk to you again soon. Bye for now.